LAPD officer who had investigated the links between the LAPD and death row, until his probe was shut down by orders from on high. Like Knox, Poole became convinced that the orders blocking their investigations had come from the very top, from LAPD Chief Bernard Parks. By then, though, the Biggie investigation had been subsumed by what became known as the Rampart scandal, in which the central figure was none other than David Mack's friend and former partner, Rafael Perez. The Rampart scandal had been invented by Perez after his arrest on charges that he had been stealing large quantities of cocaine, being held as evidence in the LAPD's property division, and selling it on the street. The Rampart scandal narrative, largely concocted by Perez, implicating dozens of mostly innocent officers in an epidemic of corruption and brutality, had been swallowed whole by the media in Los Angeles, particularly by the Los Angeles Times. In part, this was because that narrative was publicly endorsed by the Times' main source, Bernard Parks, whose motives were both personal and political. Poole and his investigation were first absorbed and then stifled by the Rampart scandal. Because of his insistence on the possible guilt of fellow officers in Biggie Small's murder, Poole became a pariah within the LAPD, administratively harassed and personally insulted. Other detectives increasingly avoided any association with him. Nearly broken, he took a leave of absence to consider his options, then returned to the LAPD after being transferred out of the robbery-homicide division. Watching what was happening as Rafael Perez played puppet master to the entire city and the Biggie murder investigation was buried in the process proved to be too much for Poole, however. In 1999, he resigned from the LAPD after nearly 19 years on the job, walking away not only from the career that had been the core of his identity, but also from the pension he might have attained by remaining with the department for another 14 months. He filed a lawsuit against the LAPD and Chief Parks that was dismissed on a statute of limitations claim by the city of Los Angeles. At that point, Poole had been marginalized to the point of non-existence. There's some irony, I think, in the fact that I found my way to him by a process that was almost a reverse engineering of the one that had at first diverted Poole's investigation of the Biggie murder, then terminated it. In 2000, I was asked by Rolling Stone magazine, where I'd been a contributing editor for many years, to consider writing an article on the Rampart scandal. I gave a tentative answer of yes, then asked that every article ever published on the scandal be delivered to my hotel room in Los Angeles. I spent several days reading, and what most astonished me was how little there was there. Not only was the fabric of the Rampart scandal shockingly flimsy, but it was obvious that the entire thing rested on the claims of a single individual, Rafael Perez, who was a far from credible character. I made an appointment to meet with Richard Rosenthal, the deputy district attorney who had both prosecuted Perez on the drug theft charges and brokered the deal that resulted in the Rampart scandal. During our conversation, Rosenthal shared two pieces of information that stunned me. The first was that Rafael Perez had failed not one, not two, not three, not four, but all 5 of the polygraph examinations to which he had submitted. The second remarkable fact Rosenthal revealed was that what became of the Rampart Task Force had originated from the connections that had been made by a former LAPD detective named Russell Poole between the David Mack bank robbery and the Biggie Smalls murder. For a Rolling Stone reporter, that last was obviously compelling news. I knew I had to meet this Russell Poole and made arrangements to do so through Poole's attorney, who insisted that we meet at his office in Beverly Hills. I found the lawyer to be unhelpful. His main concern seemed to be maintaining control of both Poole and our conversation. Fortunately, he was called out of the room by his assistant at one point, leaving me alone with Poole. "I need to talk to you without this guy around," I told Poole, and handed him a business card with my cell phone number written on it. He called me the next day and agreed.